Appreciate you shouting me, but can you tell the people who is Karl Pupé?
Sure, Karl C. Pupé. Who am I? Who am I?
Not forget the C, by the way.
It's all good. You know them ones is like Samuel Jackson. I'm playing.
Yeah.
Karl C. Pupé. Who am I? Well, I'm an author. I'm an educator. I'm a facilitator, and basically, what I've done primarily is I wrote a book called The Action Era Teacher, Classroom Management Made Simple, which is there.
You brought me a copy. Yeah,
I bought you a copy. Merry
Appreciate
Christmas.
That,
Basically, my interest is in empowering the young people, especially, obviously, it's not even especially, obviously, I just want to empower people who may be the underdog, who have not had the best life chances. I didn't come from the best background. And my interest lied in behavior. So we'll talk all about that. So what the book is about is for teachers, primarily, in how to engage hard to reach learners. Now, the problem is, especially if you work in the inner cities, is that if you look at the statistics, so I'm going to just wheel off a lot of statistics here.
Yeah, I love that.
But 40% of teachers within 5 years of training to be a teacher leave the profession.
Oh, for
now,
real?
what I found out the other day is that in inner cities, if you're looking at Birmingham, if you're looking at Manchester, if you're looking at these type of places, it's up to 50%. So nationally, on a national level, on a macro
So that's
level,
from the moment that they start teaching, so after qualification.
So as soon as you train, so when you become a teacher, you have to go to university. So obviously you do your normal degree, whether it's geography, economics, whatnot. Then you have to do something called the PGCE, which is basically like a half master's. And then you do your PGCE. So part of it's in uni, part of it's in school. And then you do your NQT year, which is like your provisional driving license. Most people don't fail their NQT yet, and then you are a fully fledged teacher. So it's a 2-year process. But after from time people have entered the PGC level, right, when you've been accepted on a PGC course, within 5 years, people leave the profession.
Oh, right? So it's not even the 5 years of educating, it's from within...
From the PGCE level. So we're talking 40% within 5 years from starting the process.
Crazy.
And if you're looking at inner cities, it's 50%. If you look at the other stats that I was just, I've been looking at, I'm always interested in these things. They're saying that when they're looking at reasons, so obviously they do exit interviews, and they're looking at reasons why are people leaving? And they said 45% of that was because of bad behavior. Other stats that I found out, the Guardian newspaper in last month, in fact, October 2019, did a big report about teachers, and they were saying that assaults against teachers, so children or students attacking teachers, has gone up by 13%.
Yeah. That's because there's hardly any pushback from that, though. So before you had the cane, so the fear was with the teacher, the power was with the teacher, whilst now it's kind of like reversed, the power was with the students.
The powers with the student, exactly. So it's kind of like when you're looking at assaults, verbal abuse, again, 40% of the people that are leaving were because they couldn't handle behavior. And this gets a lot more complicated again. If you're going into the inner cities, it gets a lot more complicated. Because what I found out the other day, which shocked me, a teacher friend of mine. In fact, I'm going to ask you a question now, right? If you looked at the national picture of teachers, national picture, so we've got roughly 500,000 teachers in the UK. Okay. What percent do you think are ethnic minority, particularly from BAM community?
I'll say probably like 10.
10%?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to consider all the like major cities, and that's probably where they'll concentrate, because I don't think we're going to be anywhere else.
Sure, yeah.
So that's my reasoning.
It's true. And I had the same reasoning, and I've been in education 10 years. It's actually 2%.
Whoa.
2%. I couldn't believe it. I went onto the government because I like to fact check.
That's how I can show you.
Of 500,000 teachers, only 2% of them are registered from the BAM community. So what you've got is there's a lot of issues, and I'm sure we're going to touch on all of those things. So when I was looking, when I was training, and they're looking at behaviour management. Behaviour management's not really from but I trained in a slightly different way. But I'll talk about that in a second. Behaviour management and how to handle people wasn't, for most teachers, is not a big module, right? So it's, you train, and then all of a sudden you're in front of a classroom with 30 eyes on you. Yeah. And, they do a week of, they do a week of, okay, this is what you do, that's what you do. Now, they've got a lot of scientific evidence and, proven practice, which is fantastic. But what I found was that there's a difference between theory and a difference between practice.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
On all levels,
So it's like I can watch Ronaldo on TV. I can look at him play. I can analyze every video that's ever been done. Over. Exactly. Yeah. But if you put me in Man United, exactly right. You put me. I could without the actual practice, it's useless. So what I found is that a lot of behavior management methods are scientifically backed, which is absolutely fantastic. But they were not fit for purpose. So, for example, they're using Freud, they're using theories from like Howard Gardner. But these guys were not they were not in education. They were psychologists. Yeah. So you're trying to take something. It's like me saying, because I'm a good cricketer, I can be a good baseball player,
or because you're using a bat.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if I play badminton well, I can be a good tennis player. So what I found was there was a bit of a tension between theory and practice. And again, if you throw it in the cultural mixes as well, because a lot of teachers that I came across just couldn't get the kids, and they couldn't understand why they couldn't access the kids. So what I decided was, I thought to myself, you know what, let me write a book, and it's going to be very plain. I tried to make it as plain in English as possible, because a lot of these books that you read, especially these theoretical books, they're very, very, very academic, very dry. Yeah. And I'm not saying they're invalid, but it's like, okay, a kid's throwing a chair at me. What am I going to do? You know, I haven't got time to sit there and emotionally coach and, how are your feelings? What are your feelings? Blah, blah. Someone's trying to throw a chair at you. You've got 30 kids. How can I practically sort that situation out? And I came with that. That was my mission. And I wrote it. And that's where the Action Hero Teacher came from. And I was very, very interested, especially looking at, obviously, my cultural background and looking at the issues of diversity. Because the only other black writer I found was a guy called Dr. Tony Sewell, who's absolutely fantastic. And
I know Dr. Tony.
He's a brilliant, absolute inspiration of mine. And I'm probably going to get this wrong. I'm not even going to do it. I think it's called Creating Genius. So what he's done now is he's created sorry viewers if I've got that wrong. You can fact check me in the comments. But he started basically a scheme where he's taking kids out.
He is Creative Genius. I know. I've spoken to him. Actually. I've had a conversation with him.
You've had a conversation with him?
I've been in his place. I've been to his house. Yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't say we're homies, but I've got him on WhatsApp. We talk. I've had more than an hour conversation with him.
I'm telling you, if you ever get the chance, you speak to him, just say there's a young author that was inspired by him. Just mention my name. Just say I wrote the book because he did a book called Black Masculinity in school.
Yeah, we're supposed to be talking about that pretty soon, actually. Yeah.
That is a brilliant book. And again, when I was looking, there were not many authors that had done that. So in fact, I went to a colleague of mine and I said, I'm interested in. It was a black colleague of mine as well, and he said, I'm interested in writing this book. And what my black colleague, it shocked me. He goes, "You're a black man. They're not going to take you seriously." He said that to me because
in regards to your book,
So I wrote that in 2018. So 2017, I was kind of, you're just sounding people out. And he said, "You're a black man. They're not going to take you seriously." And I was like,
was this a white colleague?
No, it's a black colleague.
Okay, yeah.
And he said, "You're not going to be taken seriously because there's not many of us in education." And in a weird way, I'm a bit stubborn like that. If you tell me I can't do something,
that's when you go about and do it.
I'd just say no, and I said that's even more reason to go and do this. And by the way, before anybody says, you anti, I'm not anti-white or anything. I am very much, I believe in diversity, and I believe that everybody's voice needs to be heard at the table. Everybody's voice. And it's really, really, really important. And I think the more people that come with different viewpoints that come together in anything, the better it will be. Because you can't have just, you can't be right. If I'm looking at things from one point of view, I don't have everybody's viewpoint. I need to get everybody's viewpoint in there, and I think that's important for education as well.
I think equality. I think in regards to that, I think equality of opportunity is fantastic. But then you have equality of outcome. So that needs to be weighed out based on the conversation which is had by having everyone on the table. So I definitely always agree with having everyone on the table. Yeah. And then allowing everyone to express and bring their ideas forward. And then, but then in terms of the outcome, that would then be based on whatever is gained from
that. So that's basically the backstory there. So that's why I decided to write the book. And, so far it's been fantastic. The response, because off camera, we were just talking about being scared of doing something, and then just
that was actually on camera, by the way.
I was on camera.
Right.
I didn't know when the interview started.
It started as soon as you got in here.
So so we were just talking about feeling the fear and going forward, and the response has been absolutely fantastic. And it's important. Oh, thank you, brother. It's important to it's very, very, very important that, if you've got an idea to go and do something, I really encourage everybody just to go out there, because you don't know what you're going to do. Don't think about the money or whatnot, but it's raised so many opportunities, training opportunities and stuff. I've met some fantastic people, and I'm very, very proud of the book, and it's just been fantastic. And obviously it's got me to meet you, so it's all good.
But tell me about behavioral management.
Sure.
To me, it's a tricky subject.
Sure.
So you're a teacher right now. You enter into a classroom. There's 30 whatever plus kids. I don't know how many they got now. Probably 100 kids and one teacher.
30. Legally it's 30, but some classes 32. Yeah, legally it shouldn't be above 30. But
okay. So you got 30. You got 30 kids in there, various backgrounds.
Sure.
All sorts of issues at home. Different personalities. How does one manage a group with such a diverse group of individuals and personalities?
Brilliant question. So one of the bases. So when I start the book, I talk about this because what a lot of behavior management books do is they'll give you a bunch of tips and tricks, smile at them, shake your hand, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, the problem is you need to understand your students. It's like me saying to you, all right, Francis, I want you to put, £100 worth of petrol, and I just want you to just drive on the motorway. Where are we going? Don't know where we're going. I just drive. Would that be effective? No. You need to have a framework. So a theory that I came up with, and I'm very proud of this theory, is what I call Trust Mountain. So when I step into a classroom, so I did supply teaching for about 2 years as well. So the thing is,
that's the hardest job.
Trust me, you'll get eaten alive. It was I feel like it's nothing's changed. It's like Gladiator. I felt like Maximus Ceridius. Like, I tend to take. You're walking into the lion's den. So when I step into a classroom, I am looking at what you might call it. I don't see a blob or homogeneous group of students. I break it down into 4 levels. I can group them into 4 levels. So Trust Mountain is basically, my theory basically says that the more that you can build up a relationship with your students, right? And there's 2 elements which I'll talk about in a second. The more that you can get them to listen to you. So let's discuss the 4 levels. So in the book, it's like a pyramid, right? And it's no Illuminati when I make this. People say he's invited Illuminati members onto his show. So you've got 4 levels. You've got what I call disruptors, compliance, positive, and engaged. And the bottom level are the most disruptive all the way to the top. And every single student in your class will fall into one of those categories. Now, what I say in the book openly is that people think of Harry Potter like, oh, are you going to make everybody in my class behave? No. Right? I can't promise miracles, right? I can't promise miracles.
The class clowns still need his laughs and stuff.
Exactly. So if you've got a kid, for example, who's being abused at home, who's got an alcoholic father, who is not even eating or sleeping, it will be a bit of a big ask to make that kid that's disruptive become totally engaged. That will take time. But what I can promise is that every single child moves up a level. Right? I can promise that, and there's tips and tricks to do that. So if you've got, for example, just going quickly through the levels, disruptors are the ones that don't listen, disrespectful. They're the ones that tend to be quite aggressive. Those are obviously, that's like the red zone. So in the book, I call that the red zone. Those are the ones that are most likely to throw chairs at you. I'll even give him a name. It's Johnny Table Flipper. That's Johnny Table Flipper's regime there. Next level up, you've got compliance. Those are kind of like the class clowns. Those are the guys. And the difference is the way that you approach them. So if I tell off a compliant, right, a compliant might, they might, quiet down a bit, but he's going to be the one that's elbowing his friend and giggling doing the pranks and giggling and stuff like that. Whereas the disruptors like, what are you saying, bro? No, I'm not listening to that. Right? Positives are one step above compliant. And those are the guys that, okay, they mess about, but you give them a look or you say, John, and it's, sir. Or you just look at them and say, sir, I've got my phone. They can self-correct. They can self-evaluate. And then the last level is engaged. Those are the guys that is like Harry Potter, like fully engaged, they're fully happy. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir. Everything is perfect.
No annoying kids.
Exactly. And that's the dream level. But what I say is you've got to build a relationship. Now, how you climb up this mountain, Trust Mountain, you need to have 2 branches. One in the book, and I label it, one is authority, all right, on one side, and the other is warmth. And if you can get that right combination, right, of authority and warmth, that is where you can build those relationships, and that's how you can get them engaged in your class. Because what you want to do as a teacher is you don't want to constantly saying, John, can you stop? John, put the table down. John, pick up your pen. John. You want to be able to help them to regulate and police themselves. And that's an adult skill. And those are the two ways you do that. So very, very briefly, just to talk about what authority means. When people talk about authority now, people, it gets people's backs up. Yeah. When you talk about being authoritative, because when we think of authority, so if I said authority to you, think of somebody famous that comes to mind. So when you think of somebody authoritative, who comes to mind for you?
What, like
anybody?
Trump.
Yeah. Okay. Any other people when you think of authority?
I always think police. I think, anyone in a position of power. Yeah.
Power. But you know what? Control. But you see, Trump came to mind. Was that a positive connotation or a negative connotation?
It's in between.
In between?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But mainly, obviously, based on what's happening currently, I would say negative.
Negative. Yeah. I've done this when I've done training with teachers. I say name like famous politicians or name famous people throughout history that are authoritative. Now, I haven't given any qualification. I haven't said whether it's good or bad, but the usual names come out: Adolf Hitler, Saddam Hussein.
That's like the far extreme.
Trump. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So what that shows, and I said, the thing is nowadays authority has been given a bad name, right? People think authority is a bad thing. And again, I'm going to go on a slight tangent. Somebody says, is the behavior with kids getting worse or better? And some people say, it's getting worse. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all.
Because each generation, I've actually said that about the generation before. So it's like, it's a lack of understanding of the cultural shift.
Exactly. And there's a very famous quote from, I think, a king of... I've even forgotten how to say it. Mesopotamia, which is current day Iraq. And he had on his tomb, right? An inscription saying, the children are going to ruin the empire. They're becoming worse. They're going to be the downfall of the empire. And this was 4000 BC. Yeah. All right. It's been going 4000. Yeah. This has always been the case. But the only difference between kids of ancient Egypt or Iraq and now is this. Yeah. This thing here is a weapon of mass distraction. This thing, the kids in Egypt never had one of these. Yeah. All right. Because the thing is, what I try to make teachers understand is that I want you to think, because we're so used to technology, I want you to think of it, but we've got to take a step back in history and look at this. I can right now go on Twitter. So if Boris Johnson says something, I can go on Twitter right now and I can say, you're a bloody beep, beep,
and you can at him as well.
So I can at him, Boris Johnson, and he'll read it. Yeah. You're bloody, I hate you, I want you dead, blah, blah, blah. In terms of human history, there's never been a time like this. Even if you go back 100 years ago and you went to insult like the leader, prime minister, or the queen, you could potentially...
Your head would be gone.
You'll be arrested.
Yeah, of course, 100%.
So what's happened is the gap between authority, the gap between the people and authority has become eroded away. The respect level. So what I say to teachers is, if they can't respect the prime minister, or they can't respect the president, or even the queen, why are they going to respect you? We've also had over the last couple of decades a real erosion of trust between the powers that be and and us, because of all the scandals, because of all the lies. And they did a study in America where they were looking at how much. So there's, I think it's called the Pew Institute, PEW, that look at trends and stuff like that, and they looked at trust levels of the and I'm sure it's the same here. They looked at the trust that the American people had in their politicians, and they did a graph. So they started this in World War I, World War II. And in fact, World War II was at its highest. I think in terms of approval, it was like 80%, right? So, if the president said something, so they ask questions like, do you trust the president? Do you trust what he says? Do you trust that he's got our best interest? But what you see on the graph, it was fine. It was dipping. It was like that. Kennedy, and in fact, it peaked after that, trust in the government. But when it hit Nixon, Watergate. Watergate, right? Yeah. When the Watergate scandal hit, and I'm not a historian, so I won't even try and tell you when that Watergate scandal hit, you will see it dropped off a cliff. So it went bam, it dropped off a cliff, and it's never recovered. And in fact, as the years have gone off, there's been little mini cliffs, to the point where I think if you asked, I think the Pew Institute said, if you ask the average American person, only 30% trust that the government have their best interest at heart, and that's why we've got the Trumps and the Boris Johnsons, because of all this conspiratorial stuff that's going on. So people do not trust authority anymore. But I argue that when we talk about authority, what we're talking about, we look at authority as, bow down before me. That's not the complete picture. Authority is also trust and expertise. Yeah. So a doctor is an authority on medicine. If you looked at not Mikel Arteta, Arsene Wenger, he's an authority. I'm an Arsenal fan.
Arteta now. We're playing right now.
Yeah, I know. It's Freddie Ljungberg. I'm not even going to blame him. I'm backing the manager. But if you looked at Arsene Wenger, there's no doubt Arsene Wenger would not have any power. So if he is in this room now, in terms of power, he has no power over me or you. Yeah. But if we're talking football, of course he's an authority. That's why he's got the FIFA job. So what I'm saying to people is authority is the ability to show your expertise, to be respected because you know something. And because you are a teacher, you have naturally got that authority. Yeah. Again, even we don't trust scientists. There's people saying the world is flat. There's people saying, but I argue that you need to have that level of respect where you say, look, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. You understand? And again, it's your character. Warmth, on the other hand, is your ability to engage, to have emotional intelligence with your students, not to just bark orders, but to try and understand them, to try and key into what they want. And again, using the Mikel Arteta. Are you an Arsenal supporter?
I'm an Arsenal fan. Yeah,
I'm Arsenal. Yeah. So his press conference, I really liked it. So I'll use him as an example, and I love. He used such a brilliant analogy because he goes, "Oh, what are you going to do with Ozil?" And he goes, "Look, I'm a heart surgeon." And I thought, where's he going with this? He goes, I need to find out how the players tick. He goes, I can't say what I'm going to do with them. I need to go. He goes, they said, what are you going to change about the club? He said, the energy. I need to find out what's gone wrong. Because he goes, when I was...
You see the culture around the place.
The culture. Well, yeah. And he goes, I want to figure out what's in their heart. He goes, once I get the player and I understand where they're coming from, then I would adjust my approach. And I thought, that is such a brilliant analogy for leadership. Yeah. That's what you've got to do. So this guy that's throwing a chair at you, he might be getting abused at home. Or so when you're shouting at him, he's not thinking about you, the teacher. He's thinking about his dad who abuses him at home. Yeah. So you have got to kind of key in and try and find out what makes that student tick. And that's where, from those theories, I kind of break it down each level.
So all of that, like all of the tools that you just given in the examples, is this a part of the teaching process, like the academic process that teachers go through? So are they given these tools? Are they handed these tools, or are they just kind of like you go through the university process and get all your various qualifications, then you're dumped in the classroom without given these tools? Because you could be from Lincolnshire and then you end up in the middle of a school in East London and the demographics is completely different. The experience, the culture is completely different. So what tools are these teachers given?
That is a fantastic question. And you know what? In a weird way, I'm the wrong person to answer that. The reason why I say that is because the way I was trained was slightly different. So to give you a
go
tweak,
through the conventional route.
Yeah, I didn't go through the conventional route of teaching. So basically, there's so many ways into teaching, but I'll give you the tweetable version. So the way I described at the beginning was what we call the PGCE route. So that's the academic university-led route, right? And that's how most teachers go through. The lane that most teachers go through into teaching. The route I went a route using what is called the D. So it's basically you've got this way going through secondary or primary education. That's the PGCE route. I went through the lifelong learning sector. So there's something called the DETLs, which is the Diploma in Teaching in the Lifelong Learning sector. So how I'll explain that. So most teachers go into a classroom. They sit, they go, it's very university-led, very academic. My route, I started off in a way like a youth worker. I went in and I was a NEETs, sorry, I didn't qualify this at the beginning. I was a NEETs coordinator. So NEETs are people that are not in education, employment or training. So these are the guys that drop out of school and they're the most vulnerable to getting into gangs, into antisocial behavior. So I had to work with these guys. Most of these guys got excluded from school, so we couldn't do what we call conventional or mainstream education. It was very much alternative provision, using the buzzwords.
I think we called it. It was called a project or something.
Yeah, project, exactly. Yeah. So it's basically Pro level type of stuff. So what I had to do was, how I went through it was, I was more like a youth worker. So I was given the tools. So the way I went through, I was given the tools. I worked with something called CAMS, which is the Child Adolescent Mental Health Services, YOT, which is the Youth Offending Team. So because you're dealing with kids that are disaffected, who don't want to engage in school. Imagine you've been kicked out of 2 schools. You've been told you're good for nothing. Of course, when I come in, I'm trying to teach you. You're going to have that barrier. There's that barrier to learning there. So I had to develop tools, and I was given tools, psychological tools and stuff like that, to be able to engage those guys. So when I went into mainstream education, because the government cut a lot of the alternative provision because of austerity, and I'll tell you a funny story about that. I had to go, because I have a teaching qualification. I have something called a QTLS. I had to go through into the mainstream education. And what shocked me was that teachers were not trained like how I was trained. So they went through the very academic route. I went through the more hands-on type of route. So in a way, it's not because I'm a brilliant person. I had a lot of unfair advantages. So when a lot of teachers were like, how do you make him do that? How do you engage with that?
You understood behavior, yeah.
Exactly, because I literally had to study psychology. I had to study all these type of things. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, no, I don't believe in terms of the PGC route. And I've spoken to people that do teacher training, that actually train teachers.
Yeah.
I actually went with that book, and I was like, I just said, I just want to make sure I'm not, talking rubbish here. And the teacher said, this is absolutely fantastic. They put it on the university syllabus and said, this is what we need to be teaching teachers.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they don't understand the psychological they do understand Freud and that, but the actual practical psychology of it, because it's a tough old gig, because you've got to figure out people very, very quickly. And also, I include a lot of my other experiences. I've worked many other types of jobs. I did sales once upon a time in my life. And again, that was very psychological in terms of dealing with people, NLP.
Different characters, coaches.
Exactly.
Stuff,
So that's where I got the advantages from. So that's why I believe that a lot of teachers, as you said, they will come from Devon. There's a funny story where, a teacher went up to Elias, in fact, and I knew the same teacher. And he was like, he came from Cornwall. Big up Tom. He came from Cornwall, and he was like, he was really confused. And he went up to Elias, and he was like, they said that I'm wet. What does that mean? What does that mean? You know what I mean? What does wet mean? I don't get it. What does it mean? Is it good or a bad thing? Elias was like, you're doing a good job. You're doing good. But again, it's that
Elias will say that, innit?
Yeah, you're doing a good job. And it's that cultural understanding. And I've actually met teachers, I won't mention obviously names, but I met teachers who've said, Karl, before I came to London, I never met any black people in my life.
Oh yeah.
Or I've never met ethnic minorities. Yeah. So it's a new thing. It's not their fault. It's obviously where they're raised or whatnot. But again, it's that clash of cultures. And that is why I felt it was important to write this and to talk about these things. And again, as you said, a quality of outcome is to say, look, because these things can cause problems. These things can cause serious problems. So that's that basically. Yeah. So
I mean, my theory behind it is that because I think the current education system is not fit for purpose. That's my thing. It's definitely not fit for purpose, because the way that I see it, like, the education system was created to enable parents to go into work whilst teaching their kids to become the next generation of workers. So it's just like a weird conveyor belt. So in that sense, why would the system then take the time to hone in on various cultures and various different aspects of schools with different demographics in order to equip teachers to be able to help the students? But what we're now creating is a culture where, like, we're teaching students in one format, one syllable, one system, all the way around, when every single human being is different.
Sure.
Because I think secondary school, I didn't take nothing out of secondary school. Absolutely nothing. I'll be the first one to put my hand up.
Yeah.
Like, my grades weren't great. I was dyslexic, but no one knew about it. Like, it's only now that I'm picking up on certain behaviors and certain traits, and I'm starting to understand where I potentially was let down.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So it's only towards the latter parts of, like, my university years where I started
to click.
Things started to click, and I started understanding how I take in information, how I learn. When I thought, wait, if I would have picked this, if this would have been picked up earlier on during the early stages, where could I have been? Where could I have been? Even though I don't regret anything, but it would have potentially changed, like, the trajectory of my life. 100%. And that's where the school system is failing many of students. Because I'm just one example of those individuals. Because some people come up to me like, "Oh, you're intelligent, you're smart." I'm like, "Bro, you haven't seen my GCSE grades." Like, if I was to bring out my GCSE grades, like, it's a major contrast as to who I am as an individual.
Yeah, no,
and that's where we need to now hone in and possibly take more responsibility and or make the government more accountable for what it is that's being taught to students.
Yeah, no,
and how it's being taught to them.
I 150% agree. I mean, I've been in the education system for about 10 years, and I'll be the first. And I don't want to use the word disillusionment, because I think that's too strong, but I am starting to notice a lot of things that it needs reform. The education system hasn't changed since the Victorian era or the Edwardian era in terms of the Industrial Revolution. And again, if you look at the roots, I'm sure, as you rightly mentioned, and again, I did a sociology degree, so I studied this. If you look at the reason why our education system is set up the way that it's set up, even from like the half terms and stuff like that, is because it got to a point where as the nations were becoming more industrialized, especially the Western nations becoming more industrialized, you now had a whole lot of people. So so the industrial age, we're moving from the agricultural age, where people grew their own crops, and we went into now mass factories. And what you're getting now is you're getting a whole load of people who are not skilled enough to be able to handle those factories or to go into those factories. They couldn't read or write, because imagine little Johnny is helping his dad on the farm. You understand? And again, if you're lucky, obviously if you're in the upper classes, you would get educated, but it wasn't a uniform education system. So what you needed to do is create a way to process people to become educated. Hence why you needed grades. This one's got an A, so he'll be able to do this type of task. This one got a B, so he'll be able to do this type of task. Now, my thing is, when we look at the age we're in, we're not in the industrial age anymore. We're in the information age. And you said something really key, which was saying that we need to have because things are changing. It's not fit for purpose, but we need. There was something you said in and around culture, and I think because the way that the world is changing, we need to have that more than ever. Yeah. But again, you've got the tension of, look, this is what we've always known, versus the tension of how can we reform it, because if we look at things the way the world is going, I think the teacher, and I've said this before, the traditional role of a teacher, I think, is obsolete. If I really want to find something out, I go onto Google. Yeah, 100%. Right? Back in the day, so guys, before internet, I can actually say I'm proud. I was born before the internet. If I wanted to, you know what I mean? I say that with pride to the kids. It's like, wow, Mr. Trump, how did you do? Like, you didn't have Instagram. Yeah, exactly. It's like, how did you find that information? I said there was something called a library, and I actually remember, right? Because my mum, African parents, is like, we'll actually spend a day in the library, right? And if you wanted a book or something to find out something, you have to go to the reference section. You have to take photocopies. That whole process could take you the whole day to do, right? Now, if I want to know something, boom, I pick this up within a minute. I know what I need. Yeah. So the fact that the education system, under especially the Conservative government, has gone back. So Michael Gove was the education secretary, and he's like, no, we need to strip it all down, get rid of all the stuff like music and whatnot. We need to be like other countries and focus on maths and English and stuff like that. But the way that the education system's built is on memorization. You're memorizing facts and figures for tests. But it's like, but the problem is you memorize it, you're chunking it, but you forget it. You don't need to do that. Where we need, or where the future economies are going, is they need people that are creative, that can solve problems, that can get different bits of information and connect them together in unique ways. That is what we've got to be focusing on. And the thing is, other countries are doing this. If you look at places like Norway, Scandinavian countries, they've got a system which I think is really ingenious, where you do your normal year 7 to year 9, like normal, but after that, basically they scrap everything and they say, what we're going to do is you're going to run real world projects. You're going to start a business, or you're going to do a project where you're going to, I don't know, do podcasting. And what we're going to do is grade you, not on just, your technical ability, but how you get on with people. How do you communicate? How do you do these like so-called soft skills? And I think that's absolutely ingenious, but I don't ever see the UK adopting something like that. But it prepares them better for the real world. Yeah, 100%. And what you're saying is spot on. We need to do things. If I was the education secretary, one thing that we need to do is money management. That's essential. It's so. I can't. People always ask, and my kids, my students ask me, Mr. Cham, why, Mr. Cham Pupé, why are we learning about Henry VIII and his 8 wives? Yeah. Why am I not learning about mortgages? I'm telling them simple things about income tax. They don't know what it is. It's like, why are we not learning that? And I'm not being rude to Henry VIII and his 8 wives. I've never gone for a job and say, you know what, we love you, Karl, we love you, but you've got to tell me about the 8 wives of Henry VIII. Yeah. Why did he chop off one of their heads? Yeah. Why did he, you get me? Oh, because she was paying. Yeah. No, you know what I mean? Why? You know what I mean? So it's like, I think things like money management need to be learned. Emotional intelligence, how to deal with people, how to communicate with tolerance, people. Exactly, how to communicate with people needs to be learned. What else needs to be learned? Anything to do with computers. I spoke to a guy that he did computer programming in uni, and he said by the time he learnt the computer language, But so imagine 3 years. He goes, it was obsolete.
Yeah,
he had to learn it again.
Well, it flips every 3 to 6 months now, so it's going to be even quicker going ahead in the future. So,
exactly. So literacy, digital literacy. I think what you do is absolutely important. Social media, the ability to communicate on the internet. I spoke to a recruitment agent, and he was saying that we're moving from a CV-based system into a branding-based system.
Oh yeah,
like
personal
LinkedIn.
Branding is everything now.
Yeah, because he said when I recruit people now, I don't even look at your CV. I looked at your LinkedIn. I look at your follows. I look at your articles. So we're moving from a system based on the industrial way to a more...
It's a conceptual age, I think. Yeah,
that's the word, the conceptual age. How are we preparing our kids for this? I can't remember who said it, but I think one of these Silicon Valley guys were talking about it. I don't know if it was Sean Parker. He said, we are educating kids for jobs that have not even don't even exist.
And half of them are going to be completely like dissolved within the next 10 years, maybe 10, 15 years. Yeah.
Mark Carney, who was the previous governor of the Bank of England, he said, he released a report about 3 years ago, and he did a study where he said by 2030, 50% of the jobs that we currently do now will be made obsolete by AI.
Yeah.
The Daily Mail, as reliable as the Daily Mail it all is, said he's scaremongering, blah, blah, blah. But he said, I thought, he's the governor of the Bank of England. He's probably got access to the best researchers. And he said, we are in, he described it at the time, moving from the agricultural age to the industrial age. We're going for a massive shift. And he said, what we are going to produce is a whole lot of people who will not have jobs. As you well know, now, in America, like with taxis, we're complaining about Uber. We're fighting Uber here. In America, they've already got automated cars in certain parts. So that's going to eventually come over here. You've got apps which are like lawyers for you. So somebody, I haven't seen it myself, but somebody was telling me there's an app where if you've got immigration problems, you download the app, you put in the things, and it prints things. It will tell you what to say and what to do.
There's medical apps now as well.
Exactly. You don't need to go and see a doctor. So how are we preparing our young people for this? You don't need to learn about, it's nice. If you want to learn history and you want to learn about Henry VIII, that's nice. But how are we teaching our kids how to problem solve, how to be creative, how to link things together? So what you're doing is very, very clever in the sense that the information, somebody said we're drowning in information, but we're thirsty for wisdom. I love that. We're drowning in information, but we're thirsty for wisdom. There's so much information out there. So what we need are people like you to curate the information. Because obviously if I went in and I was talking about, I don't know, you're talking about mortgages or whatnot, I can go on Google. There are millions. In fact, Google will tell billions of sites. So if I rather than me scrolling down, I'll be like, let's go to LetsDoHumans because I trust you, I know you, and I'll take in what you say. So information curation is going to be a big thing. And that's why we go to these YouTubers and they have so much power now. Because
analyzing on a human level and being able to break down things. Because, I mean, I made a statement to someone recently. I said, is there any point me going to school or university or college to learn something which I can pick up my phone and literally get all the information on in 2 minutes? And I'm going to find various breakdowns of it, which is way better than the way that the lecturer or the teacher or the person is going to be able to break down to me. But I think what we need to learn is about the practical stuff, as you're mentioning, like the mortgage. How do from a young age as well, not when it's too late or when I reach the point where I'm living a life of desperation, I'm trying to pay my bills, I'm trying to feed my kids and my wife, but from an early stage, so once I reach that stage, I'm already equipped with this information to be able to practically go forth and get that done.
But people are learning it. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy called the Urban Financier.
Yes, I've heard of him.
Brilliant. I watched him on he was on the Chucky, he was on Chucky Online, he was on the thing. And he made, in fact, what he said was big up Urban Financier. He made such a fantastic statement because obviously he does money management for the elites. So Chucky brought him on, Chucky Van, and he said, look, talk to us. And he said, the reason why those people are rich, like the upper class, is because they know about money from an early age. They were drilled into it. If you're upper class, your dad runs his own business, they'll take them in and talk to them about money. Because the average Joe Blogs on the street only starts to learn about money when they go to university. When you get that student loan, as we were talking about,
of like independence.
Exactly.
We were talking about splashing out.
Going to Foot Locker, you get me? Oh boy, I could tell many stories about my student loan, boy, my Machino jeans. But he goes, the average man or woman, by the time they hit 20, that's when they have to learn to manage money. The average Joe Blogs don't talk about money at home, right? These guys have had a 20-year head start. That is why these guys are good at money. If me and you are learning a subject like computer programming, forget 20 years, I had a 2-year head start. Unless you're a prodigy, Francis, I'm going to beat you hands down. I'm going to beat you hands down. They've got 20 years. Again, on Freezer Social, big up Freezer Social. They had exactly. They had Reggie Nelson on the program, and again, as you know, I'm sure you know his story.
Yeah, he went around knocking on every door. Yeah, well, in the wealthy area.
Exactly, in a wealthy area, and he knocked on the door of a gentleman, I think, that runs BlackRock, which is the investment company, one of the biggest hedge funds in the UK, not only in the UK, in the world. And he was saying that because now he's entered into that world, it's a different world. From a young age, these guys that go private school, and it's not even about the grades. The grades, if you look at a private school versus a state, the grades are not, unless it's a really crap state school. It's all right to say crap, right? On this, yeah. It's all right, right? Unless it's a really crap state school, it's not that big. But the difference is, those guys are networking. Oh, your dad owns BlackRock. Oh, your dad owns Clifford Chance, a law firm. So from a young
nepotism
age,
kicks in. So they're making those connections. Yeah.
They're making those connections. That one's gonna go far. Why are so many prime ministers? If you're going to Oxford University, right, or Cambridge, chances are you might be mixing with a future prime minister,
100%,
a future president. Bill Clinton went to Oxford to do some studies. I forgot what other presidents. You're mixing with, leaders, movers and shakers. So imagine now, I've went to Oxford. I'm sitting next to Theresa May, Boris Johnson. Who else come from that? David Cameron. All these guys went there, and I say, you know what? I need a job.
Yeah.
Boom.
Well, I need this contract sorted out. Can you shift a few things?
Boom.
Yeah.
You're going to university. I'm not going to mention any because I don't want to disrespect no unis. But you're going to University of Barking, or University of Ealing, or University of University of Stratford.
Yeah.
No offense to that. You're not going to be mixing with those type of guys. So that is what I'm saying in terms of the big disparity, and that's why. So all these things in these private schools are being taught informally. So in Eton, they're taught how to do public speaking.
That's a big one that they do. They do a lot of debating.
That's part of their curriculum.
Debating. Yeah.
Because they know you're going to be. In fact, I watched the documentary and they were saying that when you go to Eton, the speech the headmaster gives you is that you are the 1% of the 1%. And they've got apparently a wall full of everybody.
They're aware of their power before.
Yeah. They've got a wall full of every prime minister, all the kings and queens, and it imbues you with something. You are in hollowed ground because you are walking the same halls that this one walked, David Cameron or whoever, Prince William or whatnot. So you have something to live up to. So already, if this is a 100-meter race, they've got their toe on the line.
Yeah, that confidence is already there. Yeah. But can I ask you a question? Do you think that confidence is culturally or innately built? Because the reason why I'm asking is, the first time I ever stood up or was forced to deliver a presentation was in university.
Yeah.
And that was the first year. And I was shaking, the paper was all over the place. I was stuttering with my words. And one thing I realized, this was happening to all of the black kids. Like, I went to University of East London, not the greatest of university. It's a local thing. I popped in there. They've got a great side though. I think I don't know what's happening right now. Yeah, it was really modern. Like we had a great library, great IT system, but I just popped in. I just done university for whatever sake, innit? Like, let's
your mom, go to uni.
Yeah, and plus I just wanted to have it there. I just wanted to get it done at the time. But now my mindset's completely different. But one thing I realized in the first year that there was a group of us that came from a particular area, and whenever we were put. Like we were confident individuals within our own setting. So like when I'm chilling with the man, then we're confident. We're talking crud. We're cool.
Yeah.
But when we're put in that environment and put in front of people, there's certain level of confidence that we lose immediately. There's something that happens to us. But what I realized is with a lot of the other ethnicities, when they stepped up on stage, they had a level of confidence which I felt was universal within their group. And I'm still trying to get my head around it and see where does that come from? Because when I stood up there at the time, I was shaking. I was like, oh my gosh, these people are judging me. They're looking at me. They're looking down at me potentially. And I was stuttering my words. The paper was shaking. And it wasn't just me. It was every other kid that came from my particular background.
It's very, very interesting you said that. I think, you know what, that's really touching again, because I'd studied sociology. It's touching on perception. In America, it's very, very interesting. When Barack Obama was elected as president for the first time, 2008. They did, I've forgotten, I think it was University of Washington. Again, I'm going to be fact-checked, but it's okay. They did an actual study with African-American students. So what they did was they got like a control group. They got African-Americans, they told them not to do a test. told them to do a test as normal, revise, blah, blah, blah. But what they did with this other group of African-American kids, it was they shown a lot of things with Barack Obama. They shown a lot of things, his speeches, they showed him his inauguration, all those things, like for the sessions running up to the test. And these kids, and they were picked to have the same, ability. The kids that were in the Barack Obama group versus the guys that were in the normal group, they did on average 40 to 50% better than those guys there, touching almost the same levels as their white counterparts, whereas historically they'll be seen as, they'll be about, 30, 20%, they will do less well, basically. And what was interesting, what that study was showing was that it's about perception and confidence. And my argument would be, the reason why I raised that study is if you look at, in fact, let me ask you a question. If you think about the perception of black people, especially young black people, if you could think of a channel on satellite TV where you say, okay, I know that I'm going to see imagery of young black people, what TV channel would it be?
One of the music channels.
Exactly, MTV. But again, let's go deeper into that. What would they be likely to be doing, these young people?
Rapping about sex, drugs, and crime, and violence.
Exactly. So if you're raised with a perception where all you can do is you can play football, it's interesting because I was having a debate with a friend of mine because Raheem Sterling, they were talking about BBC sports personality. They were talking about Raheem Sterling, where he said, stand up to racism and stuff. And again, big up Raheem Sterling.
He's been doing a lot,
He's been doing a lot. And they were saying, he's so brave and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, there was a couple of problems for me. All he was saying facts. He wasn't brave. How can you?
He wasn't out here marching.
He was saying facts. It's not. Why is it brave? You know what I mean? Number one, he's saying facts. Yeah, he was saying facts.
Yeah.
He's not being quiet. He was just saying facts, and we get treated differently. Number two, which I've got a real problem with, not a real problem with, is that what they do is they look, again, this is not on Raheem. As I said, I love Raheem. But what they do is they perpetuate, the media puts a certain perception. So they'll put the rappers and the footballers and those types of people at the front. And those people, and again, I'm glad we've got the Stormzy, and again, what Stormzy's doing is fantastic and it's no disrespect onto him. But what they do is I think they push a certain perception.
Yeah. 100%.
So when I say Dr. Tony Sewell, people don't know who the hell he is.
Yeah.
You understand? But if I said this, then if I said this footballer or this rapper, then so it's a societal thing and it's a media thing.
Yeah. And my issue is as well is using someone like Stormzy is very easy for them. Very, very easy. It's very comfortable because I think when they know that when push comes to shove, that's a battle that they can win. They can crush Stormzy any moment of time because they know that he might not necessarily have certain tools to withstand an onslaught within a serious argument with someone who's academically astute. But if you was to take someone who's more academically astute, maybe like a Dr. Tony or someone else who's in that field that's got the tools necessary, then it's a different battle.
It's a different battle.
And it's a completely different battle.
Because I want to jump in on that point. There was a little bit of a beef that's happening between Michael Gove and Stormzy. So Stormzy endorsed Jeremy Corbyn the last election, and he said, what did he say? He said that this government is a very sinister government, and Michael Gove did something interesting. Rather than try and debate Stormzy, he goes, he said a comment like, I think you're better at rapping than you are at politics. And it's clear we shouldn't really talk to you, basically. Which was really demeaning. Yeah, it's almost like dismissed him.
Yeah, that's a
and Stormzy basically said, you picked on the wrong effing rapper. Yeah. And then what did he do? Michael Gove put a Stormzy lyric. He said, I set trends, them man copy. So it's all on things. But it's you see what they do and Stormzy spoke about it. It's almost like you don't know what you're talking about. I'm gonna mock you. I'm gonna use your own lyrics. I'm mocking you, as you said. So it's almost like I can't let you in this arena. I'm not taking you serious. You're just a rapper. Go and talk to, you know what I mean? Go and talk. And again, it's no disrespect onto Stormzy because of what Stormzy's saying and what he's doing, especially with the Cambridge stuff, is impeccable. And I wish more people did that. But as you said,
he's got his the publishing company as well.
The publishing company as well. And as I said, I've got nothing but mad love for Stormzy. But as you said, these people automatically try to shut him down just for the fact that he's a rapper. And I've seen it with Raheem Sterling when he spoke about racism and whatnot. He's just a footballer. Do you see that? it shuts the debate down.
Yeah.
So people in their mind is like, I'm not taking him seriously. Whereas if it was a Dr. Tony Sewell or if it was somebody else, they might think, oh, I've got to be careful because I've got to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. So that is kind of my thing. And again, it's not them, it's the media. And as again, Stormzy was he did a Guardian. He was the editor of the Guardian. And he was talking about all those things, saying that sometimes, you know, he feels that although he's where he is, he still feels there's a lot of battles that he needs to fight because people might not be taking him seriously. And he's a legit businessman. He's our Jay-Z basically.
Yeah,
he's our version of Jay-Z, and you know, more power to him. And I'm proud of him and stuff like that. But that is the problem. It's the media perception and what they want to push out about us. And that's what. And again, we're talking a bit about Blue Story as well. Yeah. And these are the things that we've all got to kind of battle with. So
I wanted you to complete your explanation in regards to like how that perception has an effect on our confidence.
Sorry, individuals. Yeah. We're on a tangent there. It's my fault.
No, it's cool. Yeah, because it was still in the back of my mind. I'm like, I get it, but I haven't been able to articulate
it. Yeah. Well, if you've come from a background where, all right, let me give it to you in an analogy. If you come from a home, so like look at the Obamas. So his daughter, so when Obama's long gone and dead, that Obama name from 200 years from now, they can say to their kid, your dad, your ancestor was a president, used to run this country. What do you think now from forever, the Obama name, he's changed his family line forever. Yeah. Because they've always got that thing. So you can have like the great-grandson of Obama who's a crackhead, but you always say, your great-grandfather was the president. Look at you. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Look at what your grandfather did, right? Whereas if you come from a home where your dad was a crackhead or whatnot, what have you, it's the opposite effect. It's the opposite effect. So why I'm using that analogy is, if you've got a community of people who are constantly being told they're criminals, constantly being told you're just good at running and football, constantly being told they're poor, constantly. So, for example, when you look at the news coverage, there was a London stabbing all the time. You see our faces, you see that. Why will you feel confident? Why will you feel like you can do anything? Whereas if you got some other, again, if you look at another community, so again, going back to Eton or going back to these guys that go to these things, you know that your dad runs this company. You know that your uncle was this person. So you already
feel a sense of confidence and empowerment.
So we don't have enough of those figures. And that's the problem. And that is why I think and again, even me, when I was writing the book, even me, I had my not my doubts, but again, I was thinking of what my colleague said. Look at what he said. You are a black male. You're not going to be taken seriously. Now, big up my colleague. I understand what he was trying to say, saying that it's going to be hard.
But he's perpetuating that same negative ideology back onto you, and he's putting you down. Yeah.
Exactly. So if I was a different person, that might have just destroyed me writing the book. But I had to fight that and say, you know what? Because there's a lack of people like myself that do that, I have to do it. I felt compelled. I have to do it. And that's what there's people that don't have that mind block. They can just go and do whatever they want. You know, if you think someone like Richard Branson, his kids, my dad started all these companies. The sky's the limit.
Yeah, you go into any room with your chest out.
Exactly. Yeah. But if you come from a home and you come from a working class background, I was raised in Barking. Barking's not pleasant.
I grew up in Forest Gate.
Yeah. We used to live there, you know. Yeah. I moved there when I was 5, so we went out the frying pan into the fire. Field Road, Balmoral Road.
Yeah.
Come on. The bits, bro. Yeah. But again, when I think about my upbringing and I'm looking at Barking and, you know, the things that I saw, it doesn't imbue me with that
100%
confidence. I once went on a field trip with some kids and we had to go like through Mayfair, and even I was gasping at some of the things I saw there, the houses, Maida Vale, the beautiful green spaces. All these things have a effect on your mindset. Yeah. That's why you got a lot of these kids that are saying, I'm from the ends, I'm defending the ends, I'm from the ghetto. And look at even that. You're glorifying something which is not nice because you've been I don't want to use the word brainwash, but you've been made to believe that that's all there is.
Yeah. And you should be proud of it.
Exactly.
I was watching a bit of content online, I think it was like a couple of days ago, and it was like a panel thing, and there was this white gentleman, there was a young black dude, and it's just like one of these question answer things.
Yeah.
And they were asking the black guy about his background, and he was like, yeah, I'm from Northwest or something, and he was like, yeah, I'm from the ends, but like, the ends is shitty, and Bear Man got shot, stabbed, boom, 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 but yeah, I rep the ends, I love the ends, and then the guy was like, the guy's face completely changed, like, What? Hold on one moment. Wait. Yeah. Are you proud of all of this? Like, it was a complete shock to him. He goes, wait, if you come from a shithole, as you're describing it, and all of these bad things happen, why are you so excited about it? He goes, oh, yeah, but it made me who I am. Now I'm successful on YouTube. I got 100 and something thousand followers. And the guy was like, wait, but hold on, that's you. One person, one outlier. What about the rest of the people, man, them who are in jail, the rest of them who've been injured through crime, the rest of them who've been through hell and back? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it might have made you who you are in terms of like your personality, which is now being like monetized and you're making money off of it. Yeah. You as an individual, but as a collective, that's not something you should be proud of as such. And I feel it in two ways, because obviously coming from the ends, I'm proud of coming from the ends. Yes, like, I grew up in gay. Like, there's certain things I know that other people don't. There's certain skills I've acquired. Yeah. But then I'm an outlier to being able to come out of that due to maybe family making the right decisions and offering me opportunities, which then taking me out of it. Do you see what I mean? It's confusing. It's like, I want to maintain pride of where I come from in terms of like how he's developed me as a human being, but as an overall, has it done better for the people within the community or not? Do you see what I mean?
I think I think going back to what Nipsey Hussle said, because they asked Nipsey, may his soul rest in peace, why do you still live in Crankshaw or why Crenshaw? And his why he goes, because okay, I'm from here, I love here, but I'm trying to change here. Yeah, I love the way he said it. He goes, I'm from here. I'm not glorifying, but I'm trying. And he did. He bought up a lot of properties. Oh, yeah, definitely. He was giving people jobs. His clothes shop, in fact, that's where he got shot. He was even, and that day, he was going to go and talk to the police about how do we improve relationships between the community. And I love that idea. If you are from the ends, because I'm from the bits, I'm from Barking, you know. And again, I love what you said, because there's certain skills and certain mindsets. Oh, 100%. You know what I'm saying? I always believe, maybe I'm wrong, and don't get at me, northwest, you know, north, west, south. Don't get onto me. This is my personal theory, because when I was coming up, that's when grime was coming up as well. So that's when all them guys, East London thing. And I take that with pride, because I think within East, there's a hustler's mindset. I think that, I don't know, I'm not saying that it's not there.
It was pioneering at the time.
It's a pioneering thing. So that is exciting when you're seeing, you know, Wiley used to come to the ends, Dizzy, you know, people that know.
I grew up around the corner from D-Double.
D-Double?
Yeah, around the corner.
Wicked, Jeremy, all them guys. And it gave, for me, the ends gave me that, when you're on like the cutting edge, when you're seeing these guys, it gives you that thing of, I can do that too, and all these type of things. But my issue is, we've come to a point where we're not going back and we're not trying to change it. That's my issue. Yeah. And that's the thing that as a community, I'm not, you know, there's people a lot smarter than me that can't figure out the problem. It's a multifaceted problem.
Oh, 100%. And that's the word I always keep hearing, because it is. Yeah.
It's a multifaceted problem. So when, as I say, representation is important. Because I've had students come up to me and say, you know what, Mr. Charm, you know, Mr. Charm Pupé, what you've done, like, you write in a book. I've never seen somebody write a book. You know, a black man write a book. So for me, I'm like, what? And I had to deep it, because I was like, wow, you don't know any black authors? He goes, no, I don't know any black authors, because usually you see rappers and singers, but you are the first guy I know who's a black man that's wrote a book. And then I realized how important it is for things like your channel, that people see that. As I said again, and I'll always keep on saying that, everybody deserves to get their voice heard. 100%. And we are coming in an age where, especially with the Brexit arguments and all that, it's kind of now muddied the waters in terms of people feel that, you know, the rhetoric I can't stand, like, oh, you've come here, you've messed up our country, we want to take control, we want you out of our country. When, you know, a lot of us have come here and we've enriched the country. Yeah. We've worked hard, we pay our taxes. So I think it's important that we get more positive representation. 100%. And again, we've got Raheem Sterling, we've got Stormzy, big up. And again, I'm such a big fan of Stormzy. And you know what, that move he did about the Cambridge thing, I thought was absolutely
I just
fantastic.
Admire his bravery, because he's in a position of easy ridicule. Like, you're at the pinnacle, you're at the top of the food chain in that realm. And it's like, anything he says, he knows he can go against him, but he still always says it.
He says,
you know what I mean? He says it with his chest. And there's people on a lower scale level who are kind of like scared to say some of the stuff that he says.
Because of their career. But the thing is, what he's done is exactly what he's done. He's come out of his hell. He's come out of the difficult situation, and he's putting his money where his mouth is. He's giving back to the community. He's not glorifying or saying, you know, he's saying, look, I've come out of this, and I'm going to put back in. And I think at every level, if we all went and did that, just a bit of it, we can make things a lot better. But the problem what we've got is we're dealing with the media representation on one side. And I'm sorry to say this, and I might get shot down for this, but it's true. I'm a teacher. You've got you've got certain what I call toxic cultural beliefs that really can destroy us. And I'm an educator, and I've been in the game for 10 years. So for example, I remember when I was a TA in a primary school. So before I did my training, I remember there was a black girl who was reading. She was very studious, and she was getting ridiculed by other a group of black girls that were bullying her. So she was coming crying, and I said, you know, what's wrong? She said, because she started crying. She told me, because I'm reading, they say I'm a white girl.
Yeah, you sound white. Yeah,
you sound white. Yeah. And I remember I got those girls and I let it rip. I was so fuming. I said, so what are you saying then? I had to get these girls. And I said, what are you saying? They say, so what? Reading is something only white people do. So what does that mean for you? Are you proud that you can't read then? So is that what you're saying? So because she's doing what she needs to do, and she was doing fantastic in school. So what, you're trying to pull her down? I said, that's a very backwards mentality. I admit the girls, sorry girls. They're probably, this was 10 years ago. Sorry girls, you're old enough. But I said, you're thinking backward. You should be applauding your friend and saying every time you're reading, you should be happy for it. So you want to stop her from reading so that what, she can fit in with you? Nah, I said, that's a.
I think some of our cultural acceptances have been have been to our greatest downfall, like majorly. And sometimes it's hard to say it because you feel like you're not only are you attacking yourself, but you're attacking your own community and your community. Because even something ridiculous like, so I like extreme sports. Like whenever I go on holiday, I'll jump off a mountain, I'll do something mad. Like I can ice skate, I can swim. Like
so you're on some that Tom Cruise Mission Impossible business.
I do a lot of stuff. And it's like whenever I'm telling people, they're like, you do everything though. Like you do martial arts, you do this, you do that, you do that. Like you do a lot of white sports, you do a lot of white things, and it's I always hear it. It's like, oh, what, you can ice skate? What, you, like, where did you learn that from? Do you know what I mean? Like, and what we don't understand is the continuous like perpetuation of that. It puts us down and it brings us back like 10 steps back because we're not enabling ourselves to move forward and to develop new skills and develop new circles of friends and learning new things.
Exactly. And if you're not strong-minded, and do you see that? There's a common thread here. So and again, I'm not critiquing the community, but I want to be honest. One thing I've always said to myself is I want to be honest, and I can't defend some of the stuff. I can't defend it. I'll always back my people, but at the same time, we've got to be brutally honest. As a teacher, that is part of my remit. I have to reflect on my practice. And those type of things there get me mad because it's, again, going back to what I was saying, a 21st century skill is being able to connect things together and different ideas. How can you connect things together if all you ever do is you're in and amongst the same people all the time? You're doing things. You've got to learn how to be able to do things, and that's how it becomes innovative. So if you're saying, okay, that's a white sport, or that's a Chinese sport, or that's a whatnot, you're just hemmed in. You're hemmed in. If you look at, so for example, Drake, what I like about him is that he is very clever because he takes inspiration and influence from everywhere. He was bigging up the UK scene. He was doing them things. If you look at Top Boy, okay, which is I know a controversial program, but I found it interesting that he was watching it and he said, "Where's the third series?" I watched the interview and he said, "It's nowhere." And
you know, there's one thing that through the whole Drake saga that I've realized that I dislike now. I dislike the word cultural appropriation. I mean, because studying Drake and then studying culture and the world in general, I just realized that. The word doesn't make sense. Obviously, there's people that'll use it for their own economic benefit. Like we know there's powerhouses that be like, oh, they've got that. How do we get into it? But like, if your white neighbor, for instance, rocks dreadlocks, and you're like, oh, you can't have dreadlocks because you're not black. That's mad. And when you look at history as well, dreadlocks actually started from the Vikings. Like Greeks had dreadlocks before Rastafarians rocked dreadlocks. There was people of oriental color or people of olive skin or white skin that had dreadlocks. Do you see what I mean? But maybe because the culture has been driven more by one particular ways, then we kind of claim it. But to me, an ideal world is where we share and take ideas from each other.
You have to.
And that's what makes us a better society. You see what I mean?
You have to. The thing is, the problem I've got is that if like what Drake was doing. Now people say, oh, Drake was he's having a beef with Wiley and saying Wiley's saying he's just using his cat.
Wiley's on one lately.
Wiley's saying, and big up Wiley as well, because I don't want Wiley, because Wiley he fires shots and I love Wiley as well. But Wiley was saying that, you know, he's only using the UK scene to kind of big up himself. But I'm like, Top Boy was a very big cultural thing. I grew up watching Top Boy, but the fact that Drake resurrected it virtually single-handedly, he said, look, find the guy that wrote it. I've forgotten the guy's name. He rung him and he goes, he thought it was a joke because they had the panel. And he goes, I'm Drake. Drake who? Because he didn't know about music. Because I'm Drake. And he said, have you got a script? And he goes, look, I've set up a meeting with Netflix. Let's go there. He didn't have to do that. So he's paid into our culture, and he's taken our culture. I think at one point, Top Boy was the third watched series in the world, in the top 10 series in the world. And that's British culture. Although there's things it's problematic.
Yeah, what's British culture? Yeah.
Exactly, what's British culture. But what I'm saying is that as long as you revere and you respect the source material, and again, what I'll argue is, as long as the people that originally done it have a say, or they have a slice in terms of ownership of it.
As long as you're not making jollof rice in a bag with tomato sauce and calling jollof rice and taking that's
rice, different. Punchy jerk rice.
Punchy, as long as you're not doing weird stuff like that, and not getting the people involved.
Exactly, that's where I've got the problem. So, if, for example, going back to the jollof rice thing, I don't care if you're a Chinese man and you're making jollof, whatnot. I don't care. Now, where I think the problem will lie is if the Chinese, the white man, or whoever, they're not even referencing. They're not. When they say, where did you get the jollof rice from? That's Chinese recipe. You're like, no, it's not. If you're not even consulting, if you just say, look, I got it from a Ghanaian, no problem, or I got it from a Zambian or whatever. But where you are not crediting the source, that's the problem. So those people, and again, that's a mindset thing. Because if you speak to billionaires and millionaires and all these guys, they do it that's where they get their ideas from. When they talk about creativity, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? You just get two different ideas, marry them together, and that's what it becomes. It becomes something different. So we've, as a community, and I know I'll probably be crucified for this, but I have to keep it real to myself. Yes, there's certain things that are happening over here which is not right. There is, racism, there's systematic racism as well. But on the other side, when you look at the parenting and you look at the other issues there, in some cases we've got to do better. In some cases we've got to do better as a community, as families, and we've got to be able to say to each other, what we're doing is not right. We've got to change the narrative.
I think it definitely starts with accountability. One of the issues I have with people when I'm having like discussions in regards to the community and stuff is like, there's no accountability. It's always them. It's always them. It's like, so if I go out and do a madness, it's always because of them. But sometimes you have to replay it back and just continuously ask yourself questions and dig deeper as in how you yourself on a micro level can solve issues.
Sure.
So let me ask you one question. So let's say there's one thing that you could implement, like a law, a rule, and the community has to follow this rule for like set years or whatever to make the greatest change. What would that be? So like you can do one thing. You can wave a wand and be like, okay, everyone in the community now has to abide by this one rule. To make the greatest change. What would that be?
Easy answer for me. Economic empowerment. Anything to do with economic empowerment. So the one rule, if strictly one macro rule, save 10% of your money. If that's the one rule I was allowed to have, I'll hopefully have a package rule, but I'd say one rule, okay, save 10% of your money. But the biggest rule I think for the community would be economic lessons. I'll say, in fact, no, let me just scratch that. I'll say for a year, this is what I'll do. I'm going to open a college that every single person has to go through, and I'm going to get the best financial minds, economic minds, and for every day for 1 hour, not every day, every week for 1 hour, you're going to sit and you're going to attend these classes. There's no degrees, there's no qualification.
From what age would that?
From year 7, from 11 all the way to 18, you have to attend. The reason why I argue this, and this is my biggest point, in terms of, I've been in education for 10 years. The problem that you've got here, the reason why I think what the biggest, I've got to be careful what I say. I think the main issue that we've got is that there are people that have massive head starts over us. People that, in terms of, so for example, if you look at schools, I don't know if you know about catchment areas or whatnot. So if, for example, if you live in Maida Vale or you live in Chelsea, you are obviously going to come from a more affluent area. If you come from a more affluent area, that means that there's certain things. There'll be better schools, there'll be better systems. Better schools means that you get better entry into better unis. Better unis mean you'll get better jobs, so on and so forth. So it's a domino effect. And as I was saying, if you're running a race and it's 100 meters, some people have already got their toe on the line. You're not even running 100 meters, you're running a marathon. They tell you it's 100 meters, but it's a marathon. And the reason why, the thing I've come up with is that on an economic level, there's certain things we just don't understand.
And we're at the bottom of the scale.
Exactly. We don't understand in terms of home ownership. We don't understand in terms of wealth creation, giving people jobs, because that's what not even being rude, that's what like the upper class do. The upper class will give jobs to each other. So they'll say, look, my dad's got a law firm here. Not even my dad. Me and you have got kids. You're in, I don't know, PwC or whatnot. I'm in Clifford Chance. I'm a top guy there. You're the top guy there. My son wants to go and learn about economics. Yep. Boom. Tell him, put my name on the top of the thing. That is what the problem is. And when you go and watch the Reggie Nelson interview with Freezer Social, and he was saying exactly that. There's so many things we do not understand. So it's like me putting you on a football pitch and you've never learned how to play football. Of course you're not going to do well. And that is the biggest problem. Because I think once people know how to economically look after themselves, and again, what I'm saying again is not even me. Martin Luther King said this because he said, you know, what would you say to the black community? There's a famous thing where they asked him, what would you say to the black community about pulling up your bootstraps? He goes, that's all well and good. What if you don't have boots? And what if you don't have feet? You know what I'm saying? So that analogy of pulling up your bootstraps is wrong. Malcolm X said it. Marcus Garvey said it. So many people have said it. Jay-Z has said it. It's the same thing. We've got to now, as a community, start to learn how to do these things. And if we can start to learn to do these things, then we have the economic power, the clout to say, look, if our area starts getting fixed up, so just say we went back to Gate, Barkey and Bow, we instead of getting all these guys to come and build new flats, we do the regen ourselves. Then we can go to the schools and say, listen, we've fixed up this area. You need to give us better schools. We need to get better teachers. You start to attract different people in because they're thinking, right, if Barking's all fixed up, people, the affluent will start to come in, and you see it starts to have a knock-on effect. But if you cannot do those things, so I went to Brixton the other day and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I saw there's a Whole Foods market.
I've seen
there.
Brixton and Peckham nowadays.
I can't believe what I'm seeing from back in the day.
It's funny, back in the day I wouldn't even step foot in there.
If you're from East.
But now you go there with colleagues for drinks and like rooftop bars and little trendy spots.
Marks and Spencer's is in Brixton. Marks and Spencer's.
I mean, it's still got the madnesses. But overall now it's got a better feel to it and the energy is getting better now.
It's different
because it's trendy, it's cool.
My boy's from there and my boy was telling me, I was like, tell me what the hell is going on? Because again, as you said, you've still got that thing. Obviously I'm a grown man, I'm not affiliated to nobody, but so when you're young now, you're like, don't go down there. And he just said to me, what's ended up happening was Google built not Google, is it Google? One of them big tech companies has got a hub in Clapham. So all their workers had to come. And obviously, so what that's happened is obviously they're getting good pay. They're coming to the area. They bring, so when people, like all the retailers say, okay, we've got all these affluent guys coming into the area. I can put a Mustang. But what's ended up happening is the local landlords have said, okay, we've got affluent guys. So they've tripled the rent. So he goes, a lot of people have been moved into Croydon. So what ends up happening is a ghettoization. So a lot of those guys get pushed into Croydon.
And the ownership wasn't there. So the people that lived there originally that could have bought the houses on a discount didn't purchase
because how would you know how to do that? So
it's like a West London story. It's like, I mean, I used to work in Marks and Spencer's as a kid. And there was a lot of old Caribbeans who came there from the Windrush generation. And there was one lady in particular. She had bought a house for like, I don't know, 15 grand or something, like a massive house in Kensington.
Country house, I
don't know, Kensington or Kensal Rise, I forgot it, but it was in that area. Like a ridiculously, I don't know, like Victorian 4 floors. You know the one I'm talking about. And I remember during the time in a minute, she was like, she just had her house evaluated, it's worth a couple of million. And she's old now.
Of course.
But she said all of her neighbours that live next to her, all the other Caribbeans, they've all been moved out to Birmingham, Manchester, whatever. So all the people that didn't own their houses, they've been kicked out to other council houses now because the value of the house has gone so high now that the owners, the original landlords,
can't afford it.
And they can't afford it. So imagine all the people that lived in Brixton initially, like all the Africans that initially went there, all the Caribbeans. Imagine they actually owned
their thing, and then you can't be getting pushed out. Even Barking, my old town. What's ended up happening was, and I saw this before I left. What ended up happening was, because the Olympics came in, I can't remember the exact figure, but hundreds of millions of pounds was invested to build the stadiums and whatnot. So you remember the 2012 Olympics. What ended up happening was they had to knock down a lot of council houses. Now you're looking at $500,000, 650,000 to get a 2-bedroom flat there. They moved a lot of those guys to Barking. A lot of those guys came to Barking, and now what you've got is now Barking in terms of the crime and stuff. It's got a lot worse because you've got a lot of people that are disenfranchised. Who again, you've been kicked out of where you bring all those problems there. Right now, Barking's be regenerated. These guys getting pushed further.
Yeah, so Gascoigne stage changed a lot now. It's unrecognizable.
Unrecognizable. I'm glad because there was murder and killing. But the problem is, what you're doing is you're pushing people out, and people are having less and less choices.
So what somebody being shifted.
Exactly. So what ends up happening is what they said about Boris Johnson when, ironically, he was the mayor of London. He wants to make London for rich people. So London is just going to be for the rich, and everybody else can bugger off like Paris. And that is the problem. When you do not own anything, using the words of Tyler Perry, when you have no ownership, you have no say.
Yeah.
This is not your house. If you live here. So this studio, if it was not yours, somebody can come, the landlord can come and say, get out. There's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, exactly. No one can never tell you nothing. And I think our American friends honestly have that. They've got that in their head. Like when I was watching, again, Tyler Perry saying he wanted to own it. He wanted to own his studio. He didn't want anyone telling him what to do. Steve Harvey said the same thing about, he was getting kicked out because he was homeless at one point and he was go fishing and he getting kicked. And he goes, I made sure that wherever I stand, I'm going to own. And I think we've really got to, especially with now this Brexit, we have now as a community and as people, and again, and let's remind ourselves, it's not only us that is in this. If you're a working class, there are many working class white people that I work with who are in exactly the same problem.
Yeah.
All right. And the problem is in this country, it's not even an issue of color; it's an issue of class.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a class.
It's a class thing. So you can even be a white person who is struggling.
Yeah.
And
there's worse ghettos outside of London, like in terms of estates. Like if you head to certain places, Liverpool,
they're ghost towns.
Yeah, definitely.
They're ghost towns, and that's, I think, going back to what you were saying. I think if the community can really start to look into that and start to look at, in terms of, we live in the information age, getting the right information, not just relying on school, but getting the right information. So going back to your friend, you were talking about, she bought the townhouse. Imagine she sells that for, just say 1.5 million, which is a conservative estimate. She gives that to her children. Just say she has 4 children. They can all buy houses. See how the wealth is just filtered down.
Yeah.
So their family line, if they're smart, that is how these things start. If you think about things like Morrison's was a stall. Just a stall you see, a market stall. Yeah. And the dad built it into 1 or 2 shops. But his son, who recently, he passed away, I think a year or 2 ago, took those shops and said, we can make it a big brand. So imagine the dad started something so small, a little market stall.
It was underestimated.
And exactly, his son took it and made it a multi-billion pound business. That is, and again, it's a long-term strategic view of saying, okay, I might not see, I used to work for John Lewis. And again, John Lewis was, a family business of merchants. And again, his son, John Speed and Lewis, because we had an induction and we learned the history of the company. Exactly. He took it on, and that is the generational thing. They said it took thousands of years to build the Great Wall of China, and the workers all knew that what we are working on, we are never going to see.
Some of us are going to die here.
Exactly, we're never going to see in our lifetime what we're working on. But the fact that they had the long-term strategic view, and that thing was built, thousands of years, and it still stands. It still stands, and that is what we have got to do. It's a relay race, and the problem is, what ends up happening is, we're running a marathon, and it's a marathon where we're passing the baton. Other people are passing the baton successfully, but what we're doing, we drop the baton, the new generation have to take that baton right back to the beginning and start running again. And then when we reach that point again, we drop the baton, we go right back to the beginning. So we are not going higher. Now, things are improving. I don't want to make it all doom and gloom. Things are improving, but it's definitely a mindset thing. And it's an economic thing, and that's the best I can come up with. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my opinion.
And I think it has to be a collective movement as well, because if various individuals are doing it here and there, fair enough, it might work for them, but if you're going to have a major impact, it always has to be collective, I feel.
Yeah, of course.
It has to be a collective understanding. I was recently speaking to... I cannot forget. No, Craig Pickney, my guy in Birmingham.
Oh yes, wicked, big fan.
Amazing guy, amazing, the passion. And he when he started talking about the community and we need to stop being distracted, I've never felt that level of energy he's a huge guy as well, and I never felt that level.
He looks like a bear.
I look tiny next to him. I've never felt that level of energy and honesty and truth, that as a community sometimes we're distracted. Our culture is full of distractions, so much distractions. If you look at the music industry, if you just look at the way we enjoy and engage with life, it's full of so many distractions, when we can't afford to be distracted based on what's happening in the community. And I realized that distraction is such a big thing, and it's something that we need to realize that, okay, cool. there is problems at hand. There's things that need to be fixed in order for there to be an everlasting level of distraction that we can thoroughly enjoy properly.
Sure.
But now we're being distracted without solving issues at hand.
But you know what I think that is? No, but I think you're spot on. But you know what I think about that is, again, it's the home values. It's the values. And unfortunately, what I think has gone wrong, and again, I'll probably get crucified for this, but I'm just talking from an educator's point of view. You've got a situation where parents, I feel like what's happened is I'm a second generation, okay? I was born in Af, but I came here when I was very, very young, okay? Yeah. So as for all intents and purposes, I've had both worlds. And what you've got is, when I was growing up, it was very, very strict. My parents were very, very strict at the time. They were quite religious, but they inculcated me with certain values. So for example, one of the values that my parents taught me was the value of work. And my parents would always say, you know, my dad, you know, may so rest in peace. My dad would say something along the lines of, you know, he'll be proud of, I've never taken a day off sick. I've never claimed benefits. That was his thing. And those values, subconsciously, I work hard, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, sometimes you think, where do you get this drive from? It's because I was raised with certain values. There's certain beliefs. There's certain programs. What we're talking about with Eton. If you've got that program where you are the elite, you're going to carry that through, you know, for the rest of your life. Yeah. What I think has happened, and again, is the value of parenting. So obviously, you know, I look at my parents and I'm thankful for what they've done for me. But, you know, when you look back, I'm a parent myself now. I think, okay, they were a bit too strict on this. But what we've done is we've gone from one extreme, which is we were really strict. If you look at people's grandparents or great-grandparents now, like the Windrush generation, I talked to a couple of these people, they say, I got beaten up, dad, But now we've gone to completely the other side, which is now we want to be friends with our children. You know, I'm no word of a lie. This is absolutely true story I'm telling you. I once rung a parent, because I won't mention the young man's name. Just say John. John was he was messing around, and I was his form tutor. So he jumped on the table, he was shouting, he was swearing at the teacher. True stories. I rang the parent and I said, look, there's a problem. John's been put in inclusion, which is basically you just get stuck in a room the day. It's like isolation in prison. Yeah,
detention and that.
Yeah, exactly. So I rang the parent and I said to the parent, you know, your son, you know, he's been messing around. John's been messing around. And I'll never forget what she goes, John is such a good boy. John is brilliant. You know, he doesn't beat me up or he doesn't swear at me. What? And I remember, I did the same thing. I said, sorry, the line broke. It didn't break, but I was just confused. He goes, he doesn't beat me up or swear at me. And I go, with all due respect, ma'am, he shouldn't be doing that anyway. And he goes, no. And then she started to tell me, she said that some other parents she speaks to, their sons or children rule the roost. They're getting slapped in the face, beaten up because he's never done that. But I said, is the standard got so low? When I go to a car dealership to buy a car, I don't say, do the wheels and the steering wheel come with this? Will I get an engine? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It comes as standard. But I thought, we have set the standard so low now that's the fact that the child does not hit you or swear at you. It's
a win.
It's like a win.
That's mad, yeah.
We've set the standard so low, and it's kind of again that thing. And I talk to a lot of parents, and a lot of parents are like, "Oh, you know, I just want them to talk to me, and I want them to be like my friend." I've spoken to parents say we're not even like friends. We're like
my kids. Yeah.
Exactly. I was in a situation last academic year, where there was a young man. We had to do like a mediation, and the mum come in, and the young man was like, you know what? Forgive my French. You know, fuck you. Like to his mum. Shut the fuck up.
In front of everyone. Whoa.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Shut up. You're an idiot, to the point where myself and my colleague had to intervene and say, you don't talk to your mum. Like, she gets on my effing nerves. She's always talking. And I said to the mum, does he live with you? I was trying to ascertain the situation. Yeah, we're going to go home together. And I thought,
it's an abusive household.
Yeah, I thought, if I said that to them, I said, if I ever did that to my parents, I'm either going to die or I'm moving out. Yeah. But I said, and I had to say to him, and I had to try and break it down to him, but she gets on my effing. I took him out of the room and I was like, you can't talk to your mum like that. But she gets on my effing nerves. I go, it doesn't matter.
Is it a two-parent household?
Yeah, the dad wasn't about. But I was like, I remember I was talking to my colleague and I was in shock. I go, how can, you know what I mean? The standards. But I spoke to the mum and he goes, you know what? It's my fault because the dad wasn't around. I felt I had to be more relaxed on him because of the thing. But she goes, now I realise because I was too relaxed on him, he feels he can do whatever he wants. And I said, now what's happened is the problem in your home has become our problem.
It's going to be a societal problem.
And exactly. And when he leaves, because he can't stay in, you know, he's always getting kicked out of lesson. How's he going to cope in the workplace? So these are the issues. And again, probably going to get crucified for this, but people don't realize, and I'm not feeding into the dad narrative. I'm trying not to feed into the absent black dad narrative, okay? Because there's things like dope black dads. I don't know if you've seen it.
I know them, yeah.
Yeah, they're wicked, they're brilliant. But again, from an educator's point of view, if I'm not even just talking about dads, if you do not make a stable home for your kid, it's going to affect their education. Yeah. If you don't make, that is the biggest, for me, if you asked me and said, Karl, tell me the biggest thing I can do for my kid to get them the GCSEs, to get them the grade. What's the biggest thing? Is there a book, a website I say, love your wife.
Yeah, 100%.
Love your wife. Yeah. Love your home. Come greet them. Say hello. How are you, son? How are you, daughter? That's the greatest thing. Because once you set that as the bedrock, they can emotionally regulate themselves. They know what healthy dialogue is. They'll make better friends. Once you can do that, I'm telling you, the grades will take care of themselves. Yeah. Because if you've got a kid, I don't care how smart you are as a kid, you're seeing your mum beat up your dad. You're seeing your dad beat up your mum because your mum. Sorry, it goes vice versa. Yeah. You've got alcohol problems. The environment when they go outside, their gangs or whatever, they're seeing shooting. These things all go into the programming of the mind, and then of course, if they are, so for example, if they have not got a stable home, they're going to look for stability. Where's the stability? There's a group of friends. Yeah. They show me love. They care about me. Youngest, and it makes me laugh. They say he's my older. How old is he? 15.
And they're mad proud to say it.
You know what I mean? 15.
They're mad proud to say it. Yeah.
He's an older. And again, just to touch on, I know time. If you look at Blue Story, and again, big up Rapman for that. That was an impeccable piece of work into creative work. But as we were saying before, if you look at that dynamic, you've got people who are emotionally damaged, looking after people, younger people. So one of the characters, I won't do spoilers, obviously had signs of PTSD. Yeah. Serious trauma. When he was in the car, I won't spoil it too much, but when he was in the car and he was saying, this has happened to me and I can't sleep. And I talk to this person who died. I'm talking. And even the other guy was like,
what were you
on? Like, brother, are you okay?
Even he locked up straight away.
Exactly. Are you okay? But this guy is a leader. So you've got somebody who's got clear mental problems, leading a group of boys and telling them what to do. That is, do you see the destructive pattern? Yeah. And then again, it was a part of one of my favorite parts of the film was when one of the guys said, "Why are we doing this?" He went to the other guys. Yeah, he goes.
He walked away from the guy.
He goes, "Why am I doing this?" Yeah, what? You scared, bro? You scared? He goes, "We're fighting for things that are not even ours."
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? He goes,
I think that's when it clicked for him. He just didn't get it.
He didn't get it. So that's the thing. And again, that's what we need to focus on. I'll say, okay, yes, we're battling this, but again, we've got to go back to basics. We've got to go and look at what are we doing. And I think once we do that, and again, I don't know how to fix this. All I can talk from is an educator's point of view. But this is a clear issue because not all of us are footballers. Not all of us are rappers. And there's no disrespect to them. But the problem I've got is if you're a rapper or you're a footballer, do you realize your chances? And I say this to my thing, sir, you're a hater. I say, I'm not hating. But I'm saying it's like winning the lottery. Yeah, 100%. Do you think you're the only kid? And I say this, 100%. How much do you practice? I practice once every 3 days. I go, there's somebody right now that's practicing every day. They've got a ball. They're doing even in the classroom.
To school, after school. Yeah.
And I think you're gonna beat them. You're going to beat them. You're not going to beat them. So you need to kind of open your mind and look at those type of things. And that's what, I'm not saying don't go into music, don't go into football. I was in music, but you can't, this is what scares me is when I talk to the youngsters, what do you want to do? I want to be a baller. I want to be a rapper, sir. What about anything else? Look, nah, dead that. Yeah. That's dead. Why do I want to work a 9 to 5? That's so dead, bruv. Work in the office, bruv. I'm like, okay, I know it's not ideal. I know, but you've got to, I'm not even saying having backup plans, but okay, what if the football team, we've got to think more strategically. In this,
and I think it's what we put out there as well. And that's one thing I'm enjoying about the podcast and the individuals I'm meeting, even like yourself. So it's putting out the different heroes within the community because sometimes not sometimes, all the time, is only a particular type of individual we're showing. There's only a particular level of success or particular type of success that we're showing, i.e. the rapper or the sports personnel. When there's so many more other avenues. Like I've got friends who working in finance at the ultimate level. I got friends who are like investors, friends who I got a friend right now. He's one of the first people to actually own his own club. I work with him. He's actually
nightclub or
he's actually one of the first people in London.
So he's like Ghost, yeah.
He ain't topping people like that, yeah. he's ghosting on Tommy, and he's incredibly inspirational, even though he's a low key character. Like he actually owns a place. He's got a place on lease, bang in the middle of London, like right in Aldgate. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna have him on the podcast.
Congratulations.
And to me, those are the individuals that we should be celebrating within the community. Because not to say that we should forget about the others, but we should be showing more the spectrum of like people that are supposedly classified as successful or are doing stuff.
That's the thing. Somebody gave me a bit of a test, and he said, name 10, people from the BAM community, like big business people, but especially black people. And I was stumped.
Yeah.
And he goes, you can't use rappers or you can't use footballers. Tim Campbell.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I can't even think of 10.
Yeah. To be honest, it's only recently that and that's through the podcast that I started that I started developing. I got a good circle of friends. I've got people that are really successful doing stuff, but then majority of my friends are Asians. Like I'm talking about my close friends. They're like Bengalis, Pakistanis and stuff. So they got family lineage of business. Like I've got friends who own franchises who are like major players and stuff. But in terms of like being able to name like a handful of black people in particular as are successful, it's only recently when I started doing a podcast that I started getting in contact with real successful people on a different level that are doing major stuff globally. Like I recently got close to Emmanuel Thompson. What's his surname? I forget. He's a black farmer. He owns a farm. He sells products.
He had a documentary. Did he have a documentary on the BBC?
Yeah.
I've forgotten the name of it. I know who you're talking about.
It's terrible because I've got him on my phone book now. He's actually one of my new homies. But like he's a successful author. He supplies like major businesses and major shops with like food products, and he has a farm. Like I don't know no black farmer in the UK. If I was to talk about black farmers, it would be back home in Africa. You know what I mean? And that's like low level farming, but he's on the highest level scale. And it was kind of like inspirational to me to start meeting these individuals now, and it started giving me a different level of confidence and a different level of like self belief that okay, there are people here that are doing it beyond what I think
can be done. And again, and what we need to kind of do, and this is what Emmanuel Jones, that's the one, because he was on BBC. I remember I wanted to watch it, and in fact, because you've said that, I'm gonna go and find it.
No, definitely.
But he was saying,
I've got a podcast with him as well.
You got a podcast?
Yeah, it's on my channel.
I need to go and watch it. But he was talking about, I remember because I saw clips of it, and he was talking about going to farmers market, and people were just looking at him like, and he was laughing about it. He goes, and I think the interviewer said, something like, do you get like, does it bother you? He goes, nah, I find it's a good chuckle.
He's that type of character.
Yeah, he goes,
and that's why he came up with the name The Black Farmer, because like it's provocative, but at the same time it's just him. He's very flamboyant about it.
Exactly, and it's like one of my another hero is Oswald Boateng. Love him, and I actually bought his documentary. He had a documentary talking about it, and he was like, how do you feel? He went to Russia to do like a fashion thing. I forgot what it's called now. It's the only if you go on Amazon, it's the only documentary of him, and he goes, how do you feel? You're the only person in the space, like black person in the space. And he was historic. He went to, was it Versace? I can't remember which one, but he was the first ever black director of these things. He goes, it empowers me. Because he goes, I know all eyes are on me. It empowers me. It makes me feel stronger because I know I stand out. And that's what we've kind of got to do. It's a mindset thing. And I'm glad you're meeting. And for me as well, I've done this. It's put me in contact with people like you and whatnot. And it makes you realize like, wow, you're not by yourself in doing this. And as I said again, and something I really want to touch on as well, and I think this is really, really important, is like yourself, because the great thing about Barking was very multicultural. So you learn, and that's one skill I think it helped me to develop, because you learn to talk to people on all levels, because it's very, you
learn to talk in different accents.
Exactly.
Wait, let me ask you a quick. Were you one of those people? So growing up in the ends, whenever I run into the Polish, I put on a Polish accent.
Yeah.
Whenever I run
code switching.
I was always code switching. Boom, 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 and it's like it's a natural thing.
It's a skill. I just realized
I was just doing it without thinking about it.
Yeah, okay, good. No, but you know what? You got to meet people on their level, and I think again, and that's the problem, is because you've got to meet people on their level. You've got to know how to navigate, and we all do it. I think, I think Dave Chappelle said it. Black people automatically know two languages: hood and corporate.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to know. You have to switch it up sometimes, but it's like you realize that, and this is what I want to say. This is in terms of evolution of the community, because I really want to make this point really, really well known. I like again what Stormzy said, because they accused him of saying, you know, this Cambridge thing. He got a lot of controversy for this. They said he's racist. He goes, and he put it on his song. He goes, I'm not anti-white, I'm pro-black. There's a difference. He goes, you know, and when I look at all the support and the people that have put me on, the majority of them have been white people, you know. I have to say it, and again, I'm not scared of controversy. I just tell my truth. You understand? When I've gone, I won't mention names, but I've gone to quite some prolific, you know, black people, and I've said, look, I'm writing this, I need your help. I've got nothing from them.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah. So, you know, I have to shout out Viv Gorskrop again. This woman was a broadcaster. She speaks to Hillary Clinton, everything. I went to an event. I had my books on me. You know, I got chatting with her. She was like a training event. I gave her a book. I didn't expect anything of it. I got the most beaming reference from this woman. Beaming. And she goes, you know, I love your attitude. I love the way you approached it. So if you go on my Twitter, you see that I've put her thing. Yeah, I pinned it. And I thought, wow, this woman is known. She shared stages with Graham Norton. She's spoken to all these guys. And within 10 minutes of meeting, I didn't even ask her. I just gave it to her like that. But sometimes when you're dealing with your own people, in my experience, sometimes it's a lot more difficult to deal with your own. They can't put you on like
I think is that crabs in a barrel analogy again.
It's sad.
Yeah, it's that relative competition against your own. Yeah.
You know, I'll say, you know what? I'll say one thing. The person will remain nameless, but this burned me, right? In the sense, so I approached an individual, quite prolific, black individual, UK individual, and like yourself, I just contacted them. What happened? So I contacted this individual. The individual got back to me, and he said, you know, how can I help you? And I just said, you know, this, I got no response. But I said, I'll send you a free book. I sent the individual a free book. And then I got a letter back saying, this individual doesn't work here. I was like, why? If I checked on the guy's website, and I said, this is the thing. This is the address. Everything's right. Said, no, he's never ever worked here. And I just thought in my head, you see those type of things. You understand what I thought? So I said, just return the book. They returned the book to me. But I thought, so what are you really about? Are you really this person that, you know, you're portraying yourself? Because you're putting something saying, these are my offices. I sent something and they say, you've never worked here. And that put a really bitter taste in my mouth. In that sense of, we should be empowering each other to do better. And I've always said that, empower each other to do better. But sometimes, and again, I feel like I'm really putting our dirty laundry out there. Sometimes, but it's we need to talk about these things. Sometimes it's that thing of we need to learn to celebrate each other more. And I'm saying, look, I always say jealousy, there's a difference between jealousy and envy.
Yeah, definitely.
Jealousy is a natural emotion, like anger, lust, laughter, sadness. So again, jealousy is like saying, oh man, Francis has got this podcast. It focuses on the thing. Francis has got this podcast, man. Oh, I wish I had that. Everybody, Francis got that nice car. That's natural. You're human. Envy is something different. Instead of focusing on the thing, you focus on the person. Why has Francis got this podcast? Why Francis? I grew up with him in Gate. Does he think he's better than me? Do you see the different thought process there? Definitely. Why has Francis got that nice car? And that is the problem. It's that fear of, and again, this is a cultural thing, is that more often than not, they don't let many of us through, right? So there's that one person. So he has to guard his space or her space. So it's like, I've worked my way into this chair and now you're coming along. Can you help me? Nah,
so, no. I want to be the house leader here. You ain't coming into my house.
Exactly. I've worked hard. So if I get up out of this chair, you're going to try and jump in my chair. And I think that is what we've got to do. And that's why even with me, I'm trying to focus on how can I uplift? I'm not perfect at it. But if somebody comes to me for help, how can I help them? How can I uplift? How can I put people through? Because as you said, if we don't come together, you know, one of us is getting through the door and then they're locking the door. In fact, knowing what some of us are going through the door, they're locking the door and saying there was never any door. Why are you knocking it? Bro, I just saw you go there. Nah, you're talking rubbish. You know, what we've got to do is one of us has got to say, all right, cool, open the door. I'll put my foot in the door. You go through, bust it open. Let's go and get into that house there. Let's do that. And that's what we've got.
And the thing is, there is enough. It's that scarcity mindset which annoys me, because there is actually enough. Do you know what I mean? We can all eat. We can all really do well. We can all like elevate each other. But it's that scarcity mindset that maybe if he takes a bite out of my cake, then that's it. Like the cake will run out.
Because we don't own anything. And if we come as owners, and this is why I love. I watched the thing with Rapman, and Rapman was invited. I didn't realize he signed with Jay-Z. He signed to Jay-Z's. I don't know what not. So what Jay-Z said to him, because Jay-Z saw like Shira's story and that. And he said, "All right, I'm having they do this Black Excellence dinner, So he said, "Rapman, come through." So he goes. I was seeing there. Pharrell was there, Diddy was there. Swiss Beats was there. Alicia Keys, obviously Beyonce, all that. And he goes, the energy. And he said the beautiful thing was, even talking, they were talking about all of us coming through, the energy, they were cutting deals, but it's just that, he goes, that gave me, he goes, when I come back to the UK, I felt superhuman. So he told a wicked story where he goes, after that, Steven Spielberg said, he was doing Blue Story. Steven Spielberg apparently said to him, you know what, we want you to direct, like Steven Spielberg's production company said, we want to give you some projects, but you're going to have to leave Blue Story. You're going to have to, and he goes, nah, I can't do this. I've got to do this for the culture, you know. But he goes, I would have not had that. That's Steve. You're turning down Steven Spielberg. Exactly. Arguably one of the greatest directors ever lived. But he goes, after seeing that, he goes, if it was now, like he was still doing Shari, he would have said, I'm going to have to just allow it. You know what I mean? But it's that thing of, I have to complete this. And now, obviously, arguably, that's, and what he said, which was wicked, it was, he turned him down, he thought, that's the end. It's the end. Stephen said, all right, I understand. I will wait for you. Finish your project, and then we'll come back and we'll start talking. But look at that. He started from, you know, just shooting videos, and now he's thrown him into the upper echelons.
Yeah.
And he's putting other people on. Obviously, Michael Ward, brilliant in Top Boy.
He killed it.
He's killed it in Blue Story. You know, these are the things that we need to consistently do. You know, these are the things. Tyler Perry brought in Idris Elba. I didn't even know that, because Tyler Perry got the star, Hollywood star. And Idris Elba went there to give a speech. And he was saying that after he did The Wire, all he got was gangster roles.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm getting typecast. But he did a film called Daddy's Little Girls. And he goes, it was the first film like where he's just an ordinary guy that's just a working guy that's looking after his kids. And he goes, if it wasn't for Tyler Perry, he goes, that's where it got him that, you know, he can do, Idris Elba can do any role he wants now. But he goes, that was the role that made people say, you know what, I can do different things. And he goes, I credit my career to Tyler Perry. And Tyler Perry just said, all I've done is I'm just helping everybody get across. He goes, I've been blessed, because obviously he's very religious. He goes, I feel my blessings have come not because I'm greedy, it's because I want people to do well. I want people to go forward. And it's such and I think maybe I'm wrong, because I'm not amongst them, but when I look at the Americans, that inspires me. That is what makes me think, okay, I've done this, I've wrote this, because people are complaining about, we're getting rubbish teachers and teachers don't understand us, they're racist. So I said, all right, let me write a book that will help them to understand you, that will help other people. And hopefully we can just come up as a movement. And that's what I believe.
Carl, that's an absolutely beautiful way of ending it. Man.
I know, like, man.
It's been super like informative for myself, and I really like to encourage everyone to go and check out the book, The Action Hero Teacher. Definitely, I'm gonna put all the links below as well.
Thank you,
Amazon, and make sure everyone checks out. I love the cover, by the way. It looks like. Is it,
bro? You know what? Let me tell you something real quick about that quick story, because I love a lot of like. I know I don't even care. People can get onto me. Yeah. And you know what? The wickedest thing is, the funny thing was, I was looking at all the other covers and it's all very buttoned up. And I always said, and I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, if you're gonna fail, fail big, fail as yourself, bring your own unique character to it. So I got a graphic artist to create that for me. Spent quite a bit of money, but you know what made me laugh was that when I give that book, automatically it's like, we haven't seen a book like this.
I haven't seen a cover like this.
I haven't seen a cover like this. So you've got to bring your own uniqueness to the fore. 100%. So I was like, if I was gonna fail, I'd rather fail being me than fail trying to copy somebody else. So go out, and then boy, in the future, there's another project, but I'm going to keep it top secret. Sick. But there's another project coming.
I was going to say that we're definitely going to catch up again, because I feel like there's so much more that we need to unpack and need to cover. So, but I mean, we've already gone 2 hours.
I know. I've been noticing it. You're going to have a nightmare of editing. I'm telling you.
Oh no, trust me. And the thing is, sometimes when you're involved in these engaging like conversations, and you're learning from someone who's coming from a background which is like quite similar to yourself, and then you're clicking. come on, East Side. Like, see, we're still repping after talking about all the issues involved in repping. It's embedded in us. Yeah, exactly. Like, I could wear a suit and tie and rock up in a corporate meeting, but I'll still be thinking E7.
E7.
It's so crazy. Yeah. But yeah, it's all stuff to discuss, stuff to unpack, and stuff to like educate and inform people about. And in particular, those that need to know, those that need to be, the knowledge needs to be brought to. But yeah, 100%, I'd like to catch up with you again. But please, really appreciate everything that you brought forward today, and appreciate the early Christmas gift as well. Definitely. Blessings, man. Appreciate it.
As I said, like, I just want to big up this man right here. As I said, he's doing it for the community. And you know, you don't realize, as I said again, you might not feel it sometimes or see it, but people are looking to you. And people are looking at you and thinking, "Raw, you know, Francis inspires me so much. I'm inspired being here." That's why I've spent time, 2 hours of conversation. So I look at what you're doing and I think, and how I know it's a good thing is, like, man, I wish I did that. You know what I'm saying? But you have just taken it and you're taking the baton forward and you're bringing, you're highlighting all these people like Craig Pinkford and Dr. Tony and all these type of guys. So you don't realize what you're doing for the culture. So I just want to encourage you in that. And 2020,
that, man. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm definitely buzzing for the next year because this year was like it. For me, in terms of the podcast, even though I feel like I've done well in developing my podcasting skills and organically growing my audience, I just feel like I wasn't as consistent as I should be. We know how the algorithm works. And the thing is, in order for me to get the product in front of the people, I need to be on board with so many things. And like that's what I'm looking to take into next year. That's my 2020 thing for the podcast. Like every week, hitting them with the content, getting more engagement and more involved with like the social media stuff. Because there's eyes and ears that want to bring forth to the podcast for them to see what's out there and introduce them to the people that I'm inspired by, like yourself, and I'm highly inspired by you. And I'm gonna read your book and then probably attack you with loads of messages and phone calls.
Away, brother.
That's definitely what I'm gonna do next year because I feel like I'm onto something.
You are. As I said as well, big up Freezer Social. I think that
definitely my guys, man. Definitely appreciate them for hooking up as well.
No problem. As I said, we're a real cultural zeitgeist, and I think it's really the last point I'll say is I don't want to get too political. I'm not like hardcore Jeremy Corbyn or whatnot, but there's something in the air, and it's not a good thing in the air at the moment. There's a lot of backlash in terms of people, like different types of people and stuff. So you've got on one hand, you've got a lot of us are coming through in the different areas, but on the other hand, you've got this tension with this anti-immigrant stance and whatnot, whatever you. And
it's
as
the rhetoric and everything that's being pushed, and that's very
and I think why it's important is so people can look at you, look at Freezer Social, look at different people, and say, you know what? As I said, everybody. I like what you said earlier in terms of, if everybody comes together and brings their ideas, and everybody respects the source, that's where it's a beautiful thing. That is where it comes together, and I think that's what makes the UK. One of my heroes is Idris Elba, and I just love the way that he's just managed to do everything. He's DJing, he's doing all this type of stuff, but he always reps the UK.
Definitely,
he always reps where he's from. And he's from East as well. So that's what we've kind of got to do. So whenever you need me, I'm here, bro.
I appreciate that. Likewise as well. Likewise.
Yeah.
Boom. Appreciate that, Carl. That was dope, man.